Do you ever feel this? You listen to someone speaking English, maybe in a movie, a podcast, or even in real life, and you understand some words, but not enough to follow the whole message. It feels like the words are flying past your ears, too fast, too connected, too hard to catch. And then you think, how can I ever speak English if I can't even understand it? That's the big problem many learners face. And today, we're going to fix it. Hi, my name is Sara, and welcome to the Best English Podcast. I'm so happy you're here because in this episode, we are going to talk about one simple but powerful idea. Listen first, speak better. Now, let me tell you something important. Many students try to speak, speak, speak. They think speaking more will make them fluent. And yes, practice is good. But here's the truth. The best speakers are also great listeners. Think about it. Children learn their first language by listening for years before they speak. They don't study grammar books. They don't memorize vocabulary lists. They listen, and slowly their brain learns the sounds, the rhythm, the meaning. Then one day, words start to come out naturally. But here's the challenge. As adults learning English, we don't want to wait years like babies. We want faster results. And that's possible, if you learn how to listen in the right way. Let me share a short story. One of my students, Maria from Spain, told me she was afraid to speak in meetings at work. She said, "Sara, when my colleagues talk, I can't catch every word. So I panic. And when it's my turn, I freeze." We changed her focus. Instead of pushing her to speak more, we trained her listening. She started listening to short audios every day, sometimes podcasts, sometimes little stories, sometimes just 2 minutes of English. She learned to relax and just listen first. And you know what happened? After a few weeks, she felt more confident, she understood more, and suddenly, speaking became easier, because she already had the sounds and words in her head. This is why the first step is always listen first. Speaking comes later, naturally. So the key idea here is simple. If you want to speak better English, don't fight with your mouth first. Train your ears. And by the way, if you enjoy learning like this, make sure you follow this podcast so you don't miss the next parts. We're going to go deeper, step by step. Now, if listening is the first step, the question is, how can you actually practice listening so that it really works? Because just playing English audio in the background is not enough. You need something more. So, how can you practice listening in a way that really helps you? Most learners make one common mistake. They listen passively. Maybe they play an English video while cooking, or they watch a movie without subtitles, hoping the magic will happen. But then, nothing changes. After months, they still feel lost when someone speaks fast. Here's the problem. When you listen passively, your brain doesn't focus. It just lets the sound wash over you, and your ears don't learn. What you need instead is active listening. Let me explain. Active listening means you are not just hearing the words, you are working with them. You are paying attention. You are asking yourself, what do I hear? What do I understand? What do I miss? For example, imagine you are listening to a short podcast, maybe just 1 or 2 minutes long. First, you listen without reading any text. You try to catch the meaning. Maybe you understand 60%. That's okay. Then you listen again, this time paying attention to specific sounds. Finally, you can check the transcript or subtitles to see what you missed. When you do this, your brain starts to connect the sounds and the words. You don't just hear, you learn. I remember one of my students, Ken from Japan. He loved American TV shows, but he said he only understood jokes when he read the subtitles. I told him, "Ken, stop watching the whole show with subtitles. Choose one short scene, listen carefully, and repeat it 3 times. Don't worry about the rest." At first, he felt it was too slow, but after a few weeks, he told me, "Sara, I don't need subtitles for some parts anymore. I can hear the words clearly. That's the power of active listening." Now, here comes the good part. When you listen actively, not only do you understand more, but your speaking also improves automatically. Why? Because you are training your brain with real English sounds, intonation, and rhythm. Your mouth simply follows what your ears already know. So remember this, don't just listen, listen actively. That's how you move from confusion to clarity. But of course, when you start listening actively, another challenge appears. Sometimes you feel overwhelmed. There are too many new words, too many fast sentences, and you wonder, how can I choose the right materials for my level? So, how do you choose the right listening materials? Because if it's too difficult, you feel frustrated. And if it's too easy, you don't grow. This is where many learners get stuck. They try to watch Hollywood movies or fast news channels at the beginning, and then they feel lost, tired, and sometimes even hopeless. Here's the solution. Find your just right level. What does that mean? It means choosing material that you can understand maybe 70 to 80%. Not 100% because then you don't learn anything new, but not 20% either because then you get nothing. Around 70 to 80% is perfect. For example, if you're B1 or B2, you might start with short podcasts for learners, or TED Talks with clear speakers, or even graded audiobooks. These give you enough challenge to grow, but not so much that you feel lost. I'll share a little story. One of my students, Ahmed, was listening to the BBC News every day. He said, "Sara, I don't understand anything, but maybe if I keep going, it will get better." But months later, he still struggled. Why? Because the material was too hard. We switched his practice. Instead of BBC News, he listened to short English stories made for learners. Suddenly, he felt progress. He told me, "Now I understand more, and I actually enjoy it." That enjoyment gave him energy to continue. So the key is this: choose material you enjoy, and that fits your level. Enjoyment is very important because if you're bored, you will stop. But if you enjoy it, you'll listen more, and the more you listen, the faster you improve. Now, once you choose the right material, another question comes up. How should you actually listen? Should you listen once, twice, or 10 times? Should you read the transcript first or later? This is where listening practice becomes powerful, and I'll show you the step-by-step method. So, you have chosen the right material. Now comes the big question: how do you actually listen? Many learners make the mistake of listening only once. They press play, they don't catch everything, and then they give up. But here's the truth. One time is never enough. Think of it like watching your favorite movie. The first time you enjoy the story, the second time you notice small details, the third time you catch even more. Listening practice works the same way. Here's a simple step-by-step method you can try. Step 1. First listen. Just play the audio and relax. Don't try to catch every word. Focus on the general idea. What is happening? What's the topic? Step 2. Second listen. Now listen again. This time, focus on key words and expressions. Maybe even pause and repeat. Step 3. Check the transcript. If you have subtitles or a transcript, read it while listening. Look for the words you missed. Notice how they sound in real speech. Step 4. Final listen. Play the audio again without reading. You'll be surprised how much more you understand now. This process is very powerful because your brain gets several chances to hear, connect, and remember. One of my students, Elena, used this method with a short podcast every morning. At first, she understood only half, but after the second and third listen, she said, "Sara, I can hear the words so much more clearly now. It feels easier." That's the magic. When you repeat in a smart way, your ears get sharper. And slowly, English stops sounding like noise and starts sounding like meaning. So remember, don't just listen once, repeat with purpose. That's how you grow from confusion to confidence. But wait, even when you listen many times, there's another common challenge. Learners often ask, what should I do if I hear a word I don't understand? Should you stop and check the dictionary every time? Or should you ignore it? This is an important question, and the answer may surprise you. So, what should you do when you hear a word you don't understand? Should you stop the audio every time and look it up? Many learners think they must know every word to understand, but that's not true. Even native speakers don't know every single word they hear. Sometimes they guess from the context, sometimes they ignore it, and that's completely normal. The problem is, if you stop and check the dictionary for every new word, two things happen. You lose the flow. You feel frustrated. So here's the strategy. Don't stop for every word. Focus on the meaning first. Ask yourself, what do I understand already? What's the situation? What's the topic? Usually you can guess the meaning from the words around it. For example, if you hear, "Yesterday it was pouring outside, so I stayed home." Maybe you don't know the word pouring, but you hear yesterday, outside, stayed home. You can guess it means something about heavy rain, and that's enough. Later, after listening a few times, you can check the word if you're curious. But during the first listens, focus on the big picture. I remember one student, Paulo from Brazil. He used to pause every 10 seconds to check the dictionary. Listening became painful. I told him, Paulo, try to relax. Let the unknown words pass. Focus on the story. At first, it was hard for him, but soon he discovered that he could still understand the main message without knowing every single word. That gave him more confidence and more enjoyment. Here's the secret. Your brain learns faster when you focus on meaning, not on every single word. Unknown words will repeat in the future, and then you'll learn them naturally. Now, when you start listening this way, you may notice another problem. Even if you understand the words, sometimes you still don't catch the meaning because English speakers talk too fast. They connect words, they cut sounds, they speak with rhythm, and that can feel impossible to follow. So, the next step is learning how to train your ears for fast English. Now, let's talk about one of the biggest struggles learners face: fast English. You listen, and you think, wait, where are the words? I know these words on paper, but when people speak, they disappear. This is completely normal. Why? Because in real life, English is not spoken word by word, slowly and clearly. Native speakers connect words, cut sounds, and change pronunciation. For example, I am going to becomes I'm gonna. What do you want becomes what do you want. If you expect every word to sound exactly like the dictionary, you'll always feel lost. So how can you train your ears for fast English? Here are two powerful tips. Tip 1, shadowing. Choose a short audio clip, maybe 10 to 15 seconds. Play one sentence, pause, and immediately repeat it out loud. Try to copy the sounds, the rhythm, the connected words. You don't need to be perfect. The goal is to feel the sound of real English. Tip 2, slow down, then speed up. Many apps and podcast players let you change the speed. At first, listen at 0.8 speed. Catch the words and notice the connections. Then, listen again at normal speed. Suddenly, normal speed feels easier. One of my students, Lena from Turkey, practiced this every day with short YouTube clips. She told me, at first I could only understand with subtitles, but after shadowing and slowing down the speed, I can now follow normal conversations much better. The result? She felt more relaxed in real-life conversations because fast English no longer scared her. So here's the truth. Fast English is not the enemy. It's just connected English. When you train your ears to hear those connections, everything becomes clearer. But there's still another challenge. Even when you understand fast English, sometimes you forget what you heard almost immediately. You can't keep it in your memory long enough to answer. So the question is, how do you improve your listening memory so you can remember what people just said and respond naturally? So, you finally understand more English, but then another problem appears. You listen, you understand the words, but when it's time to answer, your mind goes blank. This is a problem of listening memory. Your brain catches the sounds, but it doesn't hold them long enough for you to respond. And that can feel very frustrating. But don't worry, there are ways to fix this. Let me share two powerful strategies. Strategy 1, listen and repeat in chunks. Instead of repeating single words, repeat short groups of words. For example, if you hear, I went to the store yesterday, don't just repeat store or yesterday. Repeat the whole chunk, went to the store yesterday. This trains your brain to remember and process bigger pieces of language, not just individual words. Strategy 2, summarize out loud. After listening to something short, stop and quickly summarize it in your own words. Even one sentence is enough. For example, if you listen to a story about someone missing the bus, you can say, he missed the bus because he was late. By doing this, you practice keeping the message in your memory and turning it into speech. One of my students, Sophia from Italy, used this technique every evening. She listened to short news clips, then summarized them out loud. At first, her sentences were very simple, but after some weeks, her summaries became longer and more natural. She told me, Sara, now I can follow a conversation better because I don't forget so quickly. And that's the key. The more you train your listening memory, the easier it becomes to join conversations without freezing. Now, once your listening memory improves, something amazing happens. You don't just understand, you start to feel the rhythm, the flow, and even the emotions behind the words. That's when listening becomes more than just a skill, it becomes a connection. And that's what we're going to talk about next. how to move from just listening to really connecting through English. So far, we've talked about listening actively, choosing the right materials, repeating with purpose, training for fast English, and building your listening memory. But now comes the most beautiful part. Listening is not only about understanding words, it's about connection. Think about it. When you listen carefully, you don't just hear the sounds, you hear the feelings, the rhythm, the culture inside the language. That's why great speakers are always great listeners first. They don't only wait for their turn to talk, they listen to connect. I'll give you a small personal story. When I first moved abroad, my English was okay, but I was shy to speak. One day I met a woman at a cafe. She spoke very quickly, and at first I panicked. But instead of focusing on every word, I relaxed and just listened for her tone, her expressions, her emotion. I smiled, nodded, and showed I was listening. And you know what? She slowed down. She repeated herself in simpler words. We ended up having a real conversation. That day, I learned this. When you listen with attention, people want to speak with you. And this is what I want you to remember. Better listening brings better speaking. Better speaking brings better connection. So if you want to improve your English fast, make listening your daily habit. Even 10 minutes a day can make a huge difference. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Start small, but start today. Before we finish, let me ask you, did this episode help you? If yes, then don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this podcast with your friends who are also learning English. And if you leave a comment, tell me, what is your biggest listening challenge? I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening to the Best English Podcast. Keep practicing, keep listening, and remember, the more you listen, the better you will speak. Until next time, take care and happy learning.